Hello, and welcome to another fascinating edition of Why Are You, You? To help us answer this question, we've decided to look at the cultural influences of someone born in January 1960 in suburban New York City. To help define this culture this time, we decided to take a look at a few of the issues and events during this time and see how they might have shaped and influenced this individual into who he is today. Let us go back to the year 1960. Judging by his popularity, the ideal European American culture was perfectly represented by the famous artist and illustrator Norman Rockwell. This was the America many believed was America. However, 1960 in the U.S. was a year on the brink of many changes. One event of huge significance was John F. Kennedy's announcement of running for President of the United States, promising to take vigorous steps to end discrimination. And although discrimination had been part of the United States for hundreds of years, there was now a growing movement for civil rights and a desire to end discrimination. Unfortunately, there were many who vehemently opposed the idea of equality in regards to voting, housing, pay, and education, just to name a few. This was just one of the many events setting the stage for a very tumultuous time throughout the 60s. The younger generation, as they were called, began to question and challenge authority in very blatant and overt ways. Considering yourself a member of the anti-establishment became the in thing to do. January 1960 also brought home the famous Elvis Presley from his stint in the Army. Elvis was just another example of the growing trend to push the limits of conservative America with his sexually suggestive body movements and rock and roll devil music, as some called it. This whole attitude of the younger generation was the perfect incubator for the anti-war demonstrations, riots, and hippie movement that followed. 1960 also heralded the first televised presidential debates, forever changing the way Americans judged the candidates. Image, charisma, and how you looked on camera proved to be huge aspects of any campaign. Now, although this is by no means a comprehensive look at the culture during this time, it does give a sense of the undercurrent pervading much of the U.S. culture. So, in an effort to learn why you are you, let's take a look at our subject, born at this time, into a middle-class European American family and see what, if any of these events, had to do with who he became. Did he grow up to question and challenge authority? Although he had his questions, his actions conformed pretty much to the European American Christian views. Did he wear long hair and psychedelic clothes in a statement against the establishment? No. His attire was again quite conservative. Did he smoke marijuana or drink during his teenage years, which was so prevalent? Again, no. So, why didn't this person's life reflect that of the stereotypical culture of the time in which he grew up? For our subject, his family's culture is what influenced him and dominated. First, there was the fear and wrath of his father, and this fear was combined with the doctrine that failure to follow God's rules, defined by their religion and their home, would result not only in punishment, but eternal punishment and suffering. He tells us that it's hard to describe the unquestioning obedience you fall victim to when you're taught from a very early and young age that even questioning the church's teachings is a path to eternal damnation. So, where does this leave us? Are we to conclude that his family and religious culture is what really made him who he is? And did the American culture that surrounded him have very little effect? The answer is yes, no, and maybe. For our subject, his religious upbringing had a strong impact on his decision to conform rather than challenge authority. But for someone else, this could be exactly what would drive him to challenge and defy everything about his upbringing. You are who you are through a unique recipe of all your experiences, how you interpret them, and the importance you attach to each of them. You can't control all of your experiences, but it's you that determines their meaning. It's this personal interpretation of all the events in your life that determines why you are you. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to join us next time for another fascinating edition of Why Are You